Hey guys, Jim here. Woo boy, have we got something special for you. Gonna be a lot of fun. Stick around. Oh yeah, today is a very exciting day, and hopefully you can feel that excitement in my voice, because today I'm getting a chance to bring out a knife to you that I've been waiting to do the video on for about 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. I'm so very excited to do this. When I was in Las Vegas for the Las Vegas Custom Knife Show, I had the wonderful pleasure to meet Princeton Wong from Prince Customs and discuss with him a build for my knife that you're about to see here. And I gotta tell you, I could not be more excited with the execution of this knife. And I know you've already seen images of the knife as I've rolled them out before you got to this part of the video. And as good as those images are, yep, I'll pat myself on the back for that, it really doesn't do the knife justice. It's seeing this knife and the way the light dances across all the different machine components that bring out an entirely different life to this knife. But what's also exciting for me, besides the beauty in the art and the execution and the aesthetics, is really about the way the knife is built as a knife itself, how well built the knife is. So it won't matter if you're getting into a base version or a dressier version like this, you're getting first and foremost a really beautifully built knife, and then on top of that, beautiful design elements, and on top of that, beautiful machining, and on top of that, an artistic representation of the materials and colors that are used, and wow, it is really the complete package. And I realize that it may be a little pretty for some folks, but then again, remember, you could just choose different materials and less color, and you'll have something that looks a little bit less pretty. I happen to like pretty. Now, we're going to start by discussing the knife. We'll talk about the specifications, the design, the packaging, and then we're going to discuss the maker. And I truly believe that each of those sections will be equally fascinating. I think you're going to really enjoy the story about Princeton and where he comes from and what he's been doing to get to this point. So, without any further ado, we will take the lid off and see what's inside the box. Now, we get to the little folded area there. Here is your sketch of the knife. Then over here are the specifications, which, wow, I mean, just that list right there. You've got Damasteel, you've got Timascus 6AL4V titanium for the frame, bolsters, inserts, spacer, and pivot screws, and then ceramic bearings. Now, the Damasteel being used is Bjorkman's Twist, and you'll see that here in just a moment. The bearings are caged ceramic bearings. The detent is a ceramic detent, and the lock face is carbidized. You'll see here the foam insert that has been CO2 laser cut, done in-house. And this is marked that it's the Daruma Mark I. There are a set of drivers in there for if you ever feel the need to take this knife apart. If you do, you should be smacked upside the head, because you, nor I, are qualified to be futzing around with such a beautiful piece. Now, let's go ahead and get that out of the fancy packaging. It is placed in there very well. And let's get this open and get the first overall look of the style, the size, and the beauty of the materials that are being used. Now you've got a about a 4-inch blade here. Actually, if you take out the sharpening notch, it's just a hair under a 4-inch cutting edge, and it's about 9 inches overall. I measured it earlier and I forgot. It's somewhere around 9 inches overall length. And when you first look at it, and the same thing that I thought when I saw it, all of these laying on his tables, was with everything being so dramatically curved, that can't be comfortable in the hand, and I could not have been more wrong. As a matter of fact, it follows the natural shape of how your fingers want to lay when it's holding the knife, which is remarkable, because realize, when you curl up your fist, how are your fingers laying? Shorter, getting longer, longest, and then short again. Well, shorter reach, longer reach, shorter reach. How cool is that? And yes, that was everything on this knife in this design was intentional. There is nothing about this knife that was done as a happy accident. It's just truly incredible. Beautifully done in every possible respect. Now, let's talk about the origin of the name. Daruma is actually a Japanese good luck doll that they use to track goals. So what they do is they have this little doll, and it's got a space for 2 eyes. And what you do is, the first step traditionally is you set a specific goal. Once you've done that, you're going to draw the eye to signify your commitment to that goal that you've already set. Next, you take the Daruma doll and you set it in a visible place in your home or your workplace or wherever your workspace is, so that you're reminded of the focus that you need to maintain on that goal. And then finally, once you've actually achieved that goal, you're going to draw in the Daruma doll's other eye. And since this was his first design and the completion of that goal to get into knife making, the circular bolsters are like Daruma's eyes, with the second one being done to signify that the goal and the knife is complete. I love when you've got a design that brings a story into it and it all ties in so well. I mean, that's gorgeous. Now, the overall design was inspired by Japanese cranes with wing geometries and curved Asian blade shapes. So what you've got here in the blade grind, let's take a good look at that first. Now, we've seen other machinists and other knife makers put grooves, machined grooves into their blades. Look at the Grimsmo Norseman, for example. Look at Brian Tye's fluted blades. That's all done by machining that pattern into the blade as they're actually grinding the blade. What he's doing, I've never seen anyone do before, is not just leaving those marks in as it's stepping down with the CNC. What he's doing is he's creating an actual design. Now, the radial pattern would stand out more if this weren't Damasteel. So his regular, like 20 CV blades, you'll see this much more pronounced. But it's actually made to look like a wing. How beautiful is that? It's just fantastic. Now, I mentioned earlier you can get into different variations. You don't have to go quite this fancy. The base price with just titanium and a 20 CV satin blade is $880, which for a knife of this level of manufacturing, of custom detail, of all this machining, that's an incredible deal. Now, one like this one was $1,700, so there's a big price jump there, but you're looking at a lot of Timascus, you're looking at a lot of Damasteel, and just incredible work all the way around. So let's get back to the design. So when the knife is closed, it has the shape of a feather. And notice all the milling that's very specifically done to give you that look. He wanted perfect circles for the bolsters, again, to simulate the eye of the Daruma. And the bolsters actually have features machined in on the back sides of them so that they won't rotate. Because notice there's no pin visible here that's holding these circular bolsters in place. These are just round pieces of titanium. but on the back side they lock into the frame so that they can't be twisted and rotated. Now if you go through all of the inserts, the overlays, all of the work done throughout all of these milled lines, which I think are just, they're so precise and they're so incredible. Everything follows from one to the other, so everything flows perfectly. There's no disruptive pattern in here. Notice how it comes all the way from here, all the way around into the body of the knife. It's mesmerizing the more you look at this knife, and I wish you could see this in direct sunlight. There's a big difference between this soft filtered light that I have here in my studio compared to the harsh bright sunlight. This thing glistens and sparkles with all of these machine cuts that are made throughout the entire knife. Really isn't cool. It really is incredible. Let's see. He was talking about the center line of the insert screws and the pivot follow the same arc. I mean, it's just everything again was done for a very specific reason. He said he didn't want traditional flats on the blade. So if you take a look, I've got to try to get the light on here just right. He's actually done a hand ground distal taper. Look at this. Look how he's doing this. So you're going from blade stock thickness, thinning down, swelling back up, and then tapering again. And I also want you to realize he's not using a traditional knife grinder like we all use 2x72 grinders. He's using some really awful thing from like a Home Depot, this like 4x36 or some crazy size, these big wide belts, and he's grinding it in that manner, which I find to be incredible. So if he ever puts a 2x72 in his shop, look out. It's going to get even crazier. He's also designed this, even again, remember, you don't have to buy a fancy version. You could buy a more base version that you actually want to use as a knife. He's designed this to be a glass breaker. So it's reinforced with the back spacer coming down, forming this point. And it's even made to be a thumb support in the reverse grip. So for somebody who is really into tactical kind of stuff with their knives, then yes, even though this is certainly a more artsy style knife, it's going to fit the bill even for them. The balance point is right behind the center point of the knife so that you have a light blade feel as you're flipping or moving the knife around. Any kind of maneuvers that you're doing, you're going to have that very lightweight blade, and the majority of the weight's going to rest right here in your hand. Now, all of the logos, and I don't know if we're going to be able to see anything at all. Yeah, we're not going to. There's no way I can get the light in here, but all the markings for this knife are done internally on the frame because just like me, he does not like big giant billboards across his blades. He wants to let the beauty of the design speak out and not have anything really kind of getting in the way of that. So that's pretty much it in the overall portions of the knife. I want to give you some nice close-up looks. Look again at this beautiful milling, and notice how precise everything flows from one area to another, like into the pocket clip and into the inserts. Beautifully polished. There's an incredible pivot. He does have more ornate pivots that he does as well, and he works with precious metals like sterling silver, gold, and things like that. If you want his table with sterling silver, these very ornate, I don't want to call them engraved because they're not. There's a pattern that's actually cut out of the material so you could see through into the pivot area of the knife. It was very slick. There's your liner lock. And again, notice you've got your titanium frame here that's been done in the blue anodizing, actually more multicolor anodizing back here, because this is the Timascus coming around here and the titanium coming around there. So it's Timascus this side and titanium on the other. And there is your liner lock, and it's these inserts that are placed in here that work to stop the movement of the liner lock. It's just incredible, and you've seen the action, but I'll show you again. Whether you want to light switch it or you want to give it the push, it doesn't matter. This thing glides open. The ceramic bearings and ceramic detent are definitely doing their job very, very well. I also want to mention this has an utterly obscenely sharp blade edge. It's very, very sharp. Now, a knife that's this fancy, you would think, well, I'm never going to use it, but realize, folks, you've got Damasteel here. That is stainless steel Damascus, made by Damasteel. That is their trade name. And it's extremely resilient. It's extremely tough stuff, so don't ever feel that it's too pretty to use. And that blade just bites everywhere. It is so incredibly sharp. All I've done is cut just a few pieces of paper to see the sharpness, and yeah, it is. It's very sharp. Very well done in every possible respect. I love the look of this knife closed, and I love the look of it open. Look at how it just gently, very gently sweeps down into the frame, and then the frame comes up. I mean, it really is elegant and beautiful, and I was completely blown away when I first saw these. And I feel privileged to actually have this in my hands right now and have this in my collection. I've only carried it a couple of times because I didn't want to get it too dirty or too filled with, schmutz or whatever before I sat down here to do photography and videography on this. So let's talk about Princeton for a second as we gaze at this beautiful piece of art right here. Princeton is a self-taught machinist. And what I want you to do is I want you to go to his website at some point, princecustoms.com, and look at the things that he's done. I mean, whether it be an insanely cool racing shift knob or making tools or working with everything that you can imagine. He's a machinist, self-taught. He has a CO2 laser and a fiber laser, and he does laser service, which you see here, laser work done here, laser work done in here. Whether it's just marking things or etching into designs, he does it all. Here's where it's going to shock you. He started making knives in April of 2018. Guys, that's not even a year ago. Okay? This is February of 2019. He is making this himself, self-taught, here in Texas. He's in Houston, Texas. And he's doing that in under a year. Now, that is a true testament to the level of a machinist that he is. He is an extraordinarily talented machinist. But to learn the knife-making aspect of it, and to put out a knife like this in less than a year. He went to Blade of 2018, which is June of 2018. That's 2 months after he made his first knife. He brought these models with him, this model with him. He was published in the February 2019 issue of Blade magazine. I mean, this is insane. There is no outsourced work. He works from bar stock, does his own stock removal, does all of the work in-house, all of the machining, all of the grinding, applies his own edge, does all of his own polishing, because realize Damascus, in order to come out good, has to be fully polished. He's taught himself how to polish properly, how to work with titaniums, how to work with steels, how to do all of this incredible work as a knife maker on top of all of the impressive machining work that he's doing. All by himself. No one else working with him, no one holding his hand, and no one teaching him, learning from his own mistakes. He fell in love with Japanese blacksmithing when he was a child, and he's had swords, he's studied in martial arts, he played with balisongs, and he took this incredible skill of machining and turned it into knife making. And there's a lot of machinists that have turned into knife makers, and they've done extraordinarily well. But I have never In all of my years as a collector, now as a maker, knowing a lot of very, very talented knife makers personally, I have never seen a machinist turn to knife maker and in less than a year put out something not even half as impressive as this knife. And you guys know from interactions with me on social media, I am not an easily impressed person. Princeton as an individual impressed me with his maturity and his humbleness toward the work that he's putting out, and his skill has impressed me. This knife has impressed me. And I cannot wait to see the new designs that he's working on that he's going to bring to Blade Show 2019. It's going to be incredible. Look at his pocket clip here. Look at the way that it's elevated. It's made specifically for a jeans pocket to give you a little bit of clearance to get it in and out without snagging and becoming an issue, but enough tension to stay in the pocket without it sliding out. We've all had a knife here and there that we've had to jam into the jeans pocket or rip out. Not this one. Look at the taper to that blind screwed pocket clip. And the pocket clip, if you don't know that it's there, it just looks like it's part of the design. It blends in. No exposed hardware for it. If there were things I would change about this knife, what might they be? Well, really it's only a couple of things when you get down to it. Very simple, very basic. One, and this, again, even if he was a fifth-year maker, I wouldn't expect him to be doing this, but I would love to see him incorporate like a Stan Wilson type of keyhole system where there's no exposed hardware holding anything together. I think that would be incredible on this knife. The hardware doesn't take away from the knife, and I think people do get spoiled by hidden hardware. When you look at Stan Wilson and Frank Fisher and Todd Fisher, and you look at those knives with hidden hardware, number one, you're paying a premium of almost $500 just to have that particular option. But it's not a common thing. The majority of all folding knives you will ever come across will have exposed hardware. But I look at this knife and I look at his incredible skill and I say, how cool would it be if in a year or two he's able to do all of this and master a hidden hardware system? I honestly think he can do it. So that would be one thing. Not that I feel it should be on this knife at his level or at this price. It's just something that I would love to see him tackle. But there's only really one change I would make on this knife, and that would be just a little bit more blade length. Reduce the size of where the back spacer comes around, and I mean honestly you could add easily a 1/4 inch of the blade length and still fit it into the frame without a problem. That's it. But the thing is, when you look at the knife closed, you don't really feel it. And here's the funniest part: the knife does not really look imbalanced when it's open. It tricks the eye. I can't love this knife anymore. It is that spectacular. And I'm very happy to finally get this video done so I can carry it more often. As you guys know, every knife I own, except for one and only one, every knife that I own gets carried. If it's a knife that for some reason doesn't get carried, I sell it. I get rid of it. And this is a knife that I greatly look forward to carrying all the time. I don't care that it's $1,700. I don't care that it's a lot of polished areas that can scratch. I don't care if it's Timascus. It doesn't matter to me. This is a knife that I want to have with me so that I can gawk at it myself. I can be sitting, I don't know, maybe I send the wife into the mall to grab something. I'm sitting in the car and I just want to sit and stare at this incredible piece of art that I've been carrying around in my pocket, that I can play with, that I can sit there and flip because the action feels so incredible. There's just nothing that I don't like about this knife, and that's really hard for me to say. That's really hard for me to come out here on any video and say this knife is as perfect as I feel this design can be. But it is. And the fact that he's only been making knives for a handful of months, for less than a year at the point of making this video, February of 2019, it blows my mind. And if you're watching this video in the future, 5 years down the road and you come back and you come across this video, I cannot wait to see the things that he's making at that point, how much further advanced he's going to be, because it's very clear that he didn't even set out with his first knife to make just a knife, just to see if he could do it, make something basic. He came out with something where every part of the design language has a very specific meaning. And for him to get the shapes to mill into the patterns of a feather, to do all of these things where it all works together, it marries together in one complete symphony. Everything was deliberate. So I can only imagine how long it took to design before he got a chance to execute. How many attempts he made at, say, even just this pocket clip to make sure everything worked together, to decide that the chamfer on the edge of this insert was going to be just right where it disappeared under the pocket clip. I mean, there are so many obstacles to designing this knife that he had to overcome. I can't even imagine them all. But the more I look and the more I study how this knife is put together, I realize that an incredible degree of care was taken in the design of every component, and the design in the patterning that was chosen to be done throughout the entire knife. And it came together as something complete, where all the pieces work together to create that one beautiful piece of music. I'm truly impressed. I'm gonna stop now because I'm literally just gonna sit here and repeat myself over and over. So thank you guys for watching. As always, please visit princecustoms.com. See what other services that he offers, because what he's doing, he's offering stuff on an industrial level and down to an individual product level. So it's funny, I'm actually going to utilize him myself. When I want to do a fancy laser design on one of the knives that I'm making, I know who to go to. I can call him up and say, hey, you know, how long is your queue? I want to do, I don't know, some kind of crazy design laser etched onto my knife. Can you do it for me? He does that stuff. That's what he does. Custom machining, custom laser work, all this really cool stuff. And yeah, as another feather in his cap, let's add knife maker to it. And an astounding knife maker at that. With that, guys, I'm out of here, and I will catch you on the next video. You. Psst. Come over here. Come on. Why are my ears flopping down? What? Oh, I can't keep it up. Ah, damn it. Heidi-ho! Welcome in! That's a shit voice. Come check out the awesome... the fuck. Just use my voice.